Hey, it's Captain Matt, Boat Buyer's Secret Weapon, and let's talk about the difference between driving a car and driving a boat. Cars have four wheels touching the surface at all time for total control. Boats don't just sit still, they're bobbing around with the waves and the element. Cars have brakes and can come to a complete stop. Boats do not have brakes. Your back wheels follow wherever the front wheels take you. Boats steer from the rear and more pivot than turn. When driving in close quarters, if the front wheels miss, the back will follow along and miss as well. When operating in tight quarters, when turning, you often can hit the back of your boat on an obstruction because it pivots more than follows the bow around. The elements have virtually zero impact when driving a vehicle. Boats can be acted by wind, current, and waves. They're always bouncing around with the elements. There are lanes and speed limits, so the traffic pattern is very organized and predictable. When boating, there are no lanes and it's much more chaotic in speed, direction, and maneuvers. There are traffic signals like stop signs, traffic lights, and yield signs, and most everybody knows what they mean. There are no traffic signs on the water. There are navigational markers and U.S. Coast Guard regulations, but not every boater understands what they mean, although you should. I've been driving my truck virtually every day, multiple times a day, since I was 16. Most boaters only operate their boat 10, 20, maybe 30 times a season and aren't as skilled operators. Before getting behind the wheel, my parents taught me how to drive and practiced with me for a year before I got my license. I also had a driving instructor. Most boaters learn by trial and error and are never taught by a competent instructor like myself. If you get in a dangerous situation in your vehicle, you just pull over to the side of the road, call for help. When out on a big body of water or a couple miles offshore and you run into difficult situations, you can't just pull over to the side of the road and wait it out. You have to have the skills, the competence, and the equipment to get you through back to a safe harbor. Help is easy to come by. You can make a cell phone call or just wave somebody down on the side of the road. If you encounter dangerous situations, you have to have the right equipment on the boat to call for help because you can't just wave them down oftentimes. Cars have four wheels touching the surface at all time for total control. When docking your boat, you must be aware of the momentum that often carries people past the slip they're trying to get into. When I pull into a parking lot and pull into a parking spot and stop, put the car in park, and it stays exactly where you want it. Once pulled into the slip, you must get tied up immediately because your boat will not stay where it is for long. When I pull into a parking spot, there's very seldom an audience watching to see if I fail. When docking a boat, there's often a crowd around on the shore, on a patio, or on the dock, waiting for you to fail. When I pull into a parking spot, I'm in drive and just has to focus on steering in forward gear and stopping in time. When operating in tight quarters, your hands are not only steering the boat, but also adjusting the throttle in forward, neutral, and reverse. And the inputs change depending on what you need as the wind and the currents impact your boat. It's much more stressful, much more challenging, and that's why we offer the best boat captain docking mastery program that you can check out at bestboatcaptain.com. When pulling into a parking spot, I very seldom get nervous that I'm going to ding the car next to me.